This bizarre U-wing plane could fly slower than a car without falling from the sky. A forgotten aircraft from the 1950s looked impossible, flew impossibly slow, and may secretly inspire the future of aviation. The first time people saw the Custer CCW-5, they genuinely thought it was a joke. It didn't look like a real airplane. The wings weren't straight like normal aircraft. Instead, huge curved half-circle shapes sat carved into the middle of them, almost like someone had sliced giant tunnels through the wings. And somehow, engines were mounted inside those curves. It looked less like aviation and more like a science experiment that accidentally escaped a laboratory. Pilots at the time were used to sleek aircraft, sharp noses, clean wings, fast designs. The CCW-5 was the complete opposite. Bulky, strange, awkward. People laughed at it before they even saw it fly. Some engineers thought the design completely ignored the basic rules of aerodynamics. Others believed it would never leave the runway at all. But then, something changed. The moment this weird aircraft actually lifted into the air, the jokes started disappearing. Because despite looking ridiculous, the airplane could do things normal aircraft simply couldn't. It could fly unbelievably slow. It could take off in shockingly short distances. And even stranger, pilots said it felt almost impossible to stall. Now, obviously, no airplane is truly crash-proof. But compared to conventional aircraft of the 1950s, this thing behaved differently, almost unnaturally differently. And that's exactly why people started calling it the U-wing. At first glance, it looked broken. But hidden inside that bizarre design was an idea decades ahead of its time. To understand why the CCW-5 existed, you have to go back to 1925. And honestly, the story sounds almost made up. A young inventor named Willard Custer was watching a violent storm tear through the countryside when he noticed something strange. The wind was so powerful that it literally ripped the roof off a nearby barn. But what fascinated him wasn't the destruction itself. It was how the roof lifted upward before flying away. That single moment completely obsessed him. Most people would have just moved on. Custer didn't. He started thinking about pressure, airflow, lift. Why something heavy could suddenly rise into the air if a fast-moving wind passed over it. And slowly, he realized something important. Airplanes didn't actually fly because wings were magical. They flew because moving air created pressure differences. And then came the idea that changed his life. What if aircraft didn't need massive forward speed to create lift? What if instead, you could force air across the wings using propellers? Suddenly, the airplane wouldn't need to race through the sky to stay airborne. The wing itself could generate lift almost independently. That realization became Custer's obsession for decades. He began sketching strange, curved wing shapes, unlike anything aviation had seen before. Half-circle channels designed to trap and accelerate airflow. Friends thought he was crazy. Engineers dismissed him. But Custer kept going anyway, because in his mind, he wasn't inventing a better airplane. He thought he was reinventing flight itself. Now here's where things start getting really weird. A normal airplane creates lift by moving its wings quickly through the air. The faster the aircraft moves, the faster air flows over the wing, and that pressure difference pulls the airplane upward. Simple enough. But there's a problem. If the aircraft slows down too much, airflow weakens. and eventually the wing stalls. That's the dangerous moment where planes can suddenly lose lift and drop from the sky. Custer wanted to eliminate that weakness completely. Instead of forcing the entire airplane to move faster, he designed something called the Channel Wing. The wing itself had giant semicircular cutouts built into it, almost like massive open tunnels. Then he placed propellers directly inside those curved channels. And this is where everything changed. When the propellers spun, they blasted air through the curved wing sections at extremely high speed. The shape of the channel compressed and accelerated the airflow, creating massive lift even when the airplane itself was barely moving. In simple terms, instead of moving the wing through air, the plane brought air to the wing. That idea sounded insane in the 1940s. But somehow, it worked. The accelerated airflow inside the channels meant the aircraft could keep generating lift at ridiculously low speeds, speeds where normal airplanes would already be stalling. Some demonstrations even suggested the aircraft could nearly hover under certain conditions. Not true vertical flight, exactly, but close enough to shock people watching. And honestly, this is probably the moment where viewers in the 1950s realized something terrifying. If Custer was right, then almost every airplane in existence had been designed around a limitation that maybe didn't need to exist at all. By 1942, Willard Custer finally built his first real prototype, the CCW-1, and compared to the later aircraft, it looked tiny, fragile even. But the moment testing began, people realized this wasn't just another experimental airplane. Something unusual was happening. The aircraft could lift off at absurdly low speeds. Witnesses described takeoffs that looked almost unnatural compared to normal planes of the era. And then came the demonstration that turned the Channel Wing into aviation legend. A man literally ran beside the airplane as it accelerated, and before long, the aircraft lifted into the air beside him. Imagine seeing that in the 1940s. At a time when aircraft needed long runways and high speeds, this strange machine seemed capable of floating upward almost effortlessly. And it didn't stop there. In another famous test, Custer's team tied the aircraft down while increasing propeller power. As airflow blasted through the channel wings, the airplane began generating enough lift to partially raise itself vertically. Now, to be clear, it wasn't a true helicopter. It couldn't fully hover freely like modern VTOL aircraft. But for that era, the demonstration looked unbelievable. And this is where military observers started paying attention. Because suddenly, the possibilities became obvious. Aircraft that could operate from tiny runways. Aircraft that could fly slower without stalling. Aircraft that could potentially reach places conventional planes couldn't. The military tested the improved CCW-2 soon afterward, and the performance became even more impressive. For a brief moment, it genuinely felt like Willard Custer had discovered the future of aviation decades early. And then, in 1953, Willard Custer finally revealed the aircraft he believed would change aviation forever. The CCW-5. This wasn't some tiny experimental prototype anymore. The CCW-5 looked like a real airplane, a serious airplane. It had a fully enclosed cabin with seating for 5 people, retractable landing gear, and a sleek twin-engine body that looked decades ahead of its time. For the first time, the strange channel wing concept no longer felt like a backyard experiment. It actually seemed commercially possible. But even then, it still looked unlike anything else in the sky. The aircraft used the fuselage and tail of the Bowman Brigadier, a twin-engine transport aircraft already built around a pusher engine layout. Willard Custer removed the normal wings and replaced them with giant curved channel sections, creating the unforgettable U-wing shape people still remember today. Inside those huge semicircular wings sat 2 225 horsepower Continental engines, forcing massive amounts of air directly through the channels. It looked futuristic, strange, beautiful, almost like an airplane from an alternate timeline. The first flight took place on July 13, 1953, in Oxnard, California. And almost immediately, the aircraft started generating unbelievable claims. Reports suggested the CCW-5 could remain controllable at insanely low speeds, sometimes as low as 22 miles per hour. It could reportedly take off in only around 100 feet, roughly 3 seconds. And it was already airborne. In the 1950s, that sounded almost impossible. Most airplanes depended on speed and long runways to survive. The CCW-5 seemed to ignore both rules completely. It could fly slowly, climb sharply, and maneuver in ways that looked unnatural for a fixed-wing aircraft. For Willard Custer, this was the moment the impossible suddenly started feeling real. But what truly unsettled pilots was something else entirely. To understand why, you first need to understand stalls. In aviation, a stall happens when wings stop producing enough lift, usually at low speeds. Airflow separates from the wing surface, lift disappears, and the aircraft can suddenly fall out of the sky. Even experienced pilots fear stalls because at low altitude, recovery time vanishes fast. Historically, stalls caused a massive number of deadly crashes. But the CCW-5 behaved very differently. Even when the airplane slowed down, its propellers were still blasting huge amounts of air through the curved channel wings. That forced airflow continued generating lift long after conventional aircraft would have already become unstable. So while normal airplanes started shaking, dropping, and losing control, the CCW-5 simply kept flying. And this is where the aircraft started feeling almost surreal. Pilots reported steep banking turns at speeds where other airplanes would have stalled and crashed. The stall behavior itself was unusually gentle. Instead of violently dropping, the aircraft stayed surprisingly controllable. One aviation report even described the stalls as viceless. Now, obviously, the airplane wasn't magically impossible to crash. Over time, that part became exaggerated. Engine failure or pilot mistakes could still bring it down, but compared to most aircraft of the era, it was remarkably forgiving at low speeds. And that mattered enormously for military operations. Short takeoff and landing capability, known as STOL, was becoming extremely valuable. Aircraft capable of operating from tiny jungle clearings, rough fields, damaged runways, or ships suddenly had huge strategic advantages. For a moment, the CCW-5 no longer looked like an experiment. It looked like a machine breaking the rules of aviation itself. And for decades, that seemed true. The U-wing became a forgotten footnote in aviation history, a visionary idea buried by timing, skepticism, and technology that simply didn't exist yet. Nearly 70 years later, aviation started circling back to the exact same idea Willard Custer had been obsessed with all along. This time, though, the world finally had the technology. Electric motors changed everything. Suddenly, aircraft didn't need massive, heavy piston engines anymore. Batteries improved. Composite materials became lighter and stronger. Digital flight control systems could stabilize aircraft in ways engineers from the 1950s could only dream about. And quietly, modern aerospace companies started rediscovering the Channel Wing. One company in particular stood out: Hopflight. Their aircraft, called the Cyclone 5TOL, looks shockingly similar to Custer's original concepts: curved semicircular wings, propellers integrated into channels, controlled airflow generating lift at low speeds. Except now, the channels can actually pivot during flight, helping transition between vertical lift and forward movement. And this is where things get crazy. According to Hopflight, the Cyclone uses significantly less power during takeoff compared to traditional VTOL aircraft. The company claims the design achieves its climb using roughly 1/3 less power. It can carry cargo long distances while burning surprisingly small amounts of fuel. Suddenly, the exact idea people mocked decades earlier started looking efficient. For the first time, engineers weren't asking, "Can this work?" They were asking, "Why didn't we try this sooner?" And honestly, the answer is probably simple. The technology finally caught up to the idea. Back in Custer's era, the concept worked aerodynamically, but the engines, materials, and controls were too primitive to unlock its full potential. Today, electric propulsion solves many of those exact weaknesses. Lightweight systems reduce drag penalties. Computers handle stability corrections instantly. Hybrid systems improve efficiency. The dream that failed in the 1950s suddenly makes far more sense in the 2020s. And now companies are even discussing future air taxis using versions of the same principle. Which means Willard Custer may not have been wrong at all. He may have simply arrived half a century too early.
May we have our next contestant, please?
I'm W.R. Custer from Hagerstown, Maryland.
The panel, Mr. Custer happens to be, we'll give you this little hint, an aeronautical engineer. And in this day of amazing technological advances, he has reached a new milestone. In the face of the rapid forward march of science and industry, this gentleman has taken one great step backwards, or sideways in any event. So, Mr. Custer, if you'll whisper your secret to me, we'll let the audience know what's up here.
Right now, aviation faces a huge problem. Airplanes need to become cleaner, cheaper, quieter, and more flexible all at once. Cities want air taxis. Militaries want aircraft that can operate almost anywhere. Logistics companies want efficient cargo drones. Offshore industries need reliable resupply aircraft. And suddenly, engineers are searching for ideas that traditional aircraft designs struggle to solve. That's exactly why the Channel Wing is being reconsidered. The ability to generate massive lift at low speeds could make future aircraft safer and more efficient in crowded environments. Cargo drones could operate from tiny landing areas. Medical aircraft could reach remote locations faster. Hybrid electric air taxis might one day lift off from rooftops using concepts inspired by Custer's original designs. But hold on, there's still a problem. The design remains controversial even today. Some engineers still argue the added complexity isn't worth it. Others believe modern VTOL systems using tilt rotors or ducted fans may outperform Channel Wings long-term. Questions about scalability, safety, maintenance, and certification still haven't been fully answered, so the future is uncertain. But that uncertainty is exactly what makes this story fascinating. Because for nearly a century, the aviation world treated the U-wing like a bizarre mistake. And yet now, modern engineers are quietly rebuilding the same idea with newer technology and getting results Custer could only imagine. Which leaves one final question hanging in the air. What if history judged this aircraft too early? What if the impossible-looking airplane everyone laughed at was actually the future waiting for the right moment to arrive? For nearly a century, the world treated the Channel Wing like a failed experiment. But today, as electric aviation rises, Willard Custer's impossible-looking U-wing suddenly doesn't seem so crazy anymore. And if modern engineers succeed, the strangest aircraft ever built might finally become the future of flight.